Okay, so we're starting to see the dominoes fall when it comes to the United States' so-called precious snowbird season. While the MAGA crowd doesn't care and keeps telling our snowbirds to go home, Canadian and even international snowbirds are quietly selling their properties and saying goodbye to the US for good. Today I have a few reports on this topic, and I also got one story that's going to really make you shake your head. It shows how far ICE and CBP will go, even showing up in places where real heroes are trying to save their country. Now today's backdrop is from Wesley, who sent in this photo from Rankin Inlet in Nunavut. We don't get many photos from that region, so I really appreciate Wesley sending this in. A quick shout out to our newest members. We're now at 111 members on this channel, and I can't say enough how much I appreciate the support for the work that I do. Oh, and stick around to the very end. I have a very funny MAGA video lined up that I think even some of our US viewers might relate to. Alright, let's get into it.
Many Canadians with U.S. real estate are pointing to the Trump administration as a key reason for selling their properties. A Royal LePage report says 54% of Canadians with U.S. properties say they've gotten rid of or plan to sell their homes south of the border. 62% of those planning to sell and 44% of those who sold say it was due to the Trump administration. About 32% say they plan to reinvest the money from selling their U.S. home into Canada's real estate market.
So more than half the Canadians who own property in the US have either sold or are planning to sell. That's 54% fewer Canadians putting money into the US economy. And that's why I'm curious to see how this upcoming snowbird season plays out for Florida and the other snowbird states. I've been saying for a while now that the summer season would be a bust, and it is. And in the next few months, the eyes will be on the snowbird season. Now let's take a look at this next report out of City News.
A lot of Canadians all listed their properties pretty much at the same time, so there is a lot of inventory in the condo market.
For decades, Canadians have made their way south of the border to escape snowy and cold winters, a phenomenon so common it's earned them the nickname snowbirds. But now a new survey from Royal LePage reveals that more than half of Canadians who own property in the U.S. are considering selling, with most respondents pointing the finger at the current political climate and policies as top reasons.
More than 2/3 basically said that the number one reason was because of the current U.S. administration. Now, it's not the only reason, of course. Climate change is a big factor. A small percentage of them said that the increased incidence of major weather events like hurricanes and flooding and earthquakes and such are also impacting that decision, as well as personal financial.
We definitely can't discount the fact that the cost of living in Florida, it's rising. Fees, insurance, and everything else you need just to get by. And with the upcoming hurricane season, or is it hurricane season now? Anyways, with the hurricanes, it's definitely not going to help their insurance. Add the political rhetoric on top of that, and you got plenty of valid reasons for Canadians to pack up and just leave the US behind. But what really caught my eye was how it all happened. They said Canadians listed their properties all at the same time. It wasn't a gradual increase, not over the months. It was just, boom, everybody listed. It was a statement. It basically says, we're done with the US and we're selling now. So to me, in my eyes, that basically said that all the snowbirds just got fed up all at once and decided, yep, we're done. That flood of listings hitting the market all at once, combined with Florida's housing financial crisis, just shows that the Canadian snowbirds are getting out at the exact right time.
Reasons.
I have family, let's just say, that basically are snowbirds and they still have property out there, but they're really thinking of selling because it's costing too much.
It's very different right now. I'm struggling to see that a lot of my condos, especially in 55 and plus communities that are listed under 100,000, I think it's very strange that they've been on the market for 8 months.
Similar to the Buy Canadian movement started after President Trump's tariff war began, the survey also reveals that about a third of Canadians plan to reinvest the earnings from their U.S. property sales back into the Canadian housing market.
It's very possible that in the next 6 months to a year, we see a boost in markets like Mont-Tremblant or Canmore or Muskoka or Collingwood here in Ontario from that demand that has sort of shifted from, a Florida or an Arizona property back to Canada.
I prefer to buy here because I believe Canada is a country of beautiful opportunities and it's a country.
We're all waiting right now. Our high season usually kicks in, for example, October, November of this year. So I'm really curious to see what's going to happen with the market.
The property prices are still reasonable. So I think there's a great opportunity to invest across the different states and certainly would go for it.
In Montreal, Corinne Boyer, City News.
That last guy just really say there's great opportunities to invest in different states? Okay, whatever. You do you, man. So that Florida-based real estate agent mentioned that October, November, are usually the high season for her market. And I assume that's when snowbirds are usually looking to buy property. Well, she might be busy this year, but it's most likely going to be on the selling side. This next report comes from a representative at Royal LePage, with some insight on the growing migration of Canadians heading back home and investing back in Canada.
With me now to discuss is Sean Ziegelstein, broker and team leader at Royal LePage. Thank you so much, Sean, for being with us this morning. So talk to us more about this survey and what you find when it comes to Canadians' attitudes around owning American property.
Well, I think it's really interesting because, they're our closest partner, our closest neighbor. It made sense for so many years for people to go south, and especially the snowbirds love going down there in November, coming back in the early spring. And of course, with a little bit of political, we'll say, instability over the last couple of years, their thought process has changed a little bit. And the thought process now has been, according to our survey, to move back some money back to Canada and maybe invest back in the Canadian market rather than have it down south.
Now, I know this guy's just being politically correct by just saying it's a little bit of a political instability, bullshit. But let's be real here. It's called chaos. Chaos from President Trump and his 77 million followers. We have quite a few snowbirds in our community, both Canadian and international. And I'm curious, after selling your property in the US, where did you invest next? Did you invest back here in Canada, or back in your home country, or maybe another sun destination somewhere around the world? Let us know in the comments. I'm actually curious to see where everyone has invested.
All right, so let's talk about the impact of that next, beginning first of all with the U.S. I mean, so many people have homes in Florida or Arizona, California. Will that make a dent in the real estate market there if Canadians start selling?
It's hard to say what the exact numbers are that people are going to start to move with and start to unload those properties. I think the U.S. real estate market is a very touchy market in certain areas simply because of the fact that you're going to have some areas that are still going to be strong markets despite Canadians potentially selling their properties. And then you're going to have some others that may feel a little bit of effect, especially if it's a lot of Canadians in one area. There are some specific areas that there's a flock of Canadians that go down to. And if that group decides to now move north again, what's going to happen? Of course, you're going to see some increased inventory and then potentially some price drops down in that U.S. market as well.
Yeah, I'm thinking specifically of South Florida as you explain that. So those who are selling, what kind of prices, what kind of are they? I mean, a lot of people have had property in the family for decades. They're generational properties. So are they getting a good return?
Well, I don't know if they're getting good return. I think they look at it from a couple of different standpoints. Number one, do they want to invest their money back into the United States right now? So it may not just be a financial move that they want to make. It may be the thought process of economics down there. But they're also potentially winning a little bit when it comes down to the interest rate difference as well, right?
It's going to be tough to say whether snowbirds selling their properties are up or down in their investment. For those selling generational properties, I would imagine that most of them are up. That's a stat I'd love to know, but I doubt we'll ever see it. What I'm curious about is this. Are there snowbirds who sold at a loss and were completely fine with it just to get out of the US? I vaguely recall some comments in my early days of my channel where Canadians said that they sold at break even or even took a slight loss just to cut ties. It'd be very interesting to hear from those Canadians who sold at a loss just to get out.
When you look at the interest rates of what you can get up down there and what you're getting up here, and then plus the exchange rate on your dollar. I know a lot of people that purchased properties when we were almost at par. Well, right away, they're making an extra 30 to 35% just on the exchange rate. So they're going to be making money on those properties, even if they're selling them for the same price, which they're not because they have increased over the years. But I think a lot of people are just looking at it from not necessarily just a monetary standpoint. They're looking at it from, do we want to put more money into the U.S. right now, spend our money there, go out to restaurants, go out to entertainment venues and such like that. I don't think they're doing it as much as they were in the past.
I imagine these reasons are a big factor for many Canadians who are selling. In the first clip from Global, 44% of those who sold said a key reason was Trump. That's a clear message to me. They sold to get out. They sold to stop contributing to the restaurants, shops, bars, and local events that this guy had mentioned. And the impact is going to be really felt during the winter season, when a good percentage of the Canadians are just gone.
And so if they do decide to reinvest here in Canada, what sort of markets or regions would that be in?
I don't think they'll look in the major city centers just because I think that the affordability is still not there. But could they go to cottage country? Could they go outside of those major city centers, go out to the East Coast? Maybe they're going to go north. Maybe they're going to invest into Quebec, into cottages there or condominiums there that they might be able to get into in recreational areas. Maybe they want to get into skiing a little bit more in the winter rather than going to the sun destinations for now. And I don't think this is a full-time change. I don't think this is a change that's going to happen and people will never go back down to the US. I think really once we get some more stability happening in the marketplace, I think people will still want to be down in warmer destinations, spending their winters down there if that's their train of thought and want to get away from the snow.
I'd say I partially agree with that. It's unrealistic to think that all Canadians will stop investing in US property. Once Trump is gone, some will, but then majority won't. What's different now is that a good percentage who sold this year are never going back. I've even seen some comments here on this channel from snowbirds who bought in other sun destinations instead: Mexico, Panama, Costa Rica, and even as far away as Thailand. So these are permanent changes. And in the years ahead, I don't think overall trend of investing in the US property will ever be the same again.
Sean, I have to ask you lastly, are you surprised that this, even the buy Canadian sentiment is hitting the real estate market? I mean, Canadians are, by the sounds of it, taking this pretty darn seriously.
I think they are. I think we kind of took it a little bit personally, and Canadians were always the ones saying, sorry, we're all the ones, apologizing for everything. But I think at this point, we felt a little bit hurt. And I think most Canadians are not, traveling as much to the United States as they did in the past. Some will not travel at all. I think they're trying to reinvest. I think they're trying to see this wonderful country that we have and travel across this country and see what it has to offer as well, because Canada is a great place to live, a great place to be. And there's so many opportunities here as well.
Sean, thanks so much. Glad you could join us today.
Thanks so much, Marcia.
Well, we definitely took it personally, and we have every right to. Some people are just saying that the boycott is slowing down. But one of the biggest investments that the US relies on is the money that the snowbirds bring into the local economies. I really think that the US media and even US businesses are underestimating just how much they depended on that spending. We're talking about families dropping $50,000 or more in a season just to live there. That money goes into the restaurants, shops, entertainment, golf, and everything else. So I'm really glad to hear this trend, and I'll admit, I can't wait to start reviewing those reports titled, "The Snowbirds Never Came Back, and We Have No Idea Why," coming straight from Fox News. Now, moving on to a separate topic. You would think that CBP and ICE would have limits on where they're patrolling. But this next story, it'll definitely make you shake your head.
Authorities in Washington state have been fighting the state's largest wildfire nonstop for almost 2 months. It's called the Bear Gulch Fire. It's burned 9,000 acres since early July. Officials say it's only 13% contained. It is so big, they've had to rely on contract firefighters. But a group of those firefighters who were battling the blaze had to take a 3-hour timeout from their work on Wednesday. You see, their camp was raided by Border Patrol officials, and they were lined up and told to show their IDs.
Nice.
We got hit, guys.
That's all right. Tribal member. Yeah, we got pulled over by ICE. Crazy, dude. We got members from the tribe of Umatilla, Cayuse, and Walla Walla. This is crazy, man. Look at that.
You really have to take a step back and think about how crazy this is. ICE and Border Patrol actually made the effort to drive into a forest fire zone just to check people's IDs and do whatever ICE does. These firefighters are out there trying to save your country's land from burning to a crisp. And ICE decides this was the perfect time to start checking IDs? What's going to be next? Checking a paramedic's ID while they're trying to save someone from a car accident? Honestly, it doesn't even feel realistic these days. And it makes me wonder, why would any other country want to send their firefighters to the United States after this?
Step up. We have a different crew over here. Talk to the boss. And I guess La Migra.
You heard people on the scene claim that at least some of those firefighters were Native Americans, indigenous volunteers. They got raided. State officials confirm it. Now, those Border Patrol officers ultimately arrested 2 of the firefighters. It's not clear why. According to reporting by the Seattle Times, one of the firefighters said members of the crew were told not to take video of the incident. You risked your life out here to save the community, the firefighter said. This is how they treat us. Another firefighter said they were denied the chance to say goodbye to the detained crew members. I asked him if his family can say goodbye to him because they're family and they're just ripping them away, the firefighter told the Times. And this is what he said. You need to get the blank out of here. I'm going to make you leave.
How is this not an authoritative government? How can Americans who support Trump still say that this is the land of the free? I really just don't get it. Now, going back to what I said earlier, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and other countries have all stepped up to help the US with the fires in the past. But tell me this right now. What firefighter in their right mind would want to deal with this nonsense? And it's not just the fires. These situations are going to come up again, whether it's a hurricane or ice storm, like when we sent our hydro crews to help them. As much as I would want to help, because that's what Canadians do, I really do hope our government and our rescue officials take this into account for the future before offering help in any future natural disaster.
The Times notes it's unusual for federal border agents to make arrests during the fighting of an active fire, the largest in the state of Washington, especially in a remote area. In fact, a Biden-era policy bans most immigration enforcement at natural disaster sites, but here we are. Trump and his supporters, Vance says this all the time, they constantly push this line that you either care about Americans or you care about immigrants, not both. But it's racist garbage. We're an interconnected society of human beings who depend on each other to survive and thrive. And there's not some neat line you can cleave between Americans and foreigners. We just have neighbors and communities. Trump world says that's bunk, that there's just two sides. Trump world says that to make America great again, you need armed federal officers roaming streets and businesses and Home Depot parking lots in search of people to disappear. And now raids on camps of firefighters as they literally battle the largest wildfire in the American Northwest. Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and Stephen Miller and their ilk are going to burn the country to the ground if that's what it takes so they can rule over the ashes.
I wholeheartedly agree with that assessment. Every single day, there's always something new coming out of the US, whether it's a tourist being detained at the border, ICE raiding another Home Depot, or even showing up at a forest fire zone, mass shootings, or just racism everywhere. This isn't normal, and the rest of the world knows it. Here in Canada, in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and pretty much everywhere else in the world, people are witnessing the decay of the United States in real time, and it's sad to see. I've got close friends in the US who are messaging me every day, and every so often one of their messages always starts off with, "Oh my God, you're not going to believe what just happened." That's not the kind of environment I'd want to live in, and it's why I feel for our American viewers. But to be real, there's a lot of things that need to be done to turn your country around. And me, I'm just a random Canadian YouTuber who doesn't know much about politics and also borderline dyslexic. Yeah, I'm not afraid to admit it. I don't have the answers for you, and I really don't know what to do. So I'll end the video here, but I got one last clip, and I think some of our US viewers will relate to it, especially if you know some MAGA supporters. It shows perfectly how MAGA will never take responsibility for what is happening today. If you found this video helpful, hit the like and subscribe button as it helps push the video out to more people, and share it with your friends as well. I'll leave you with the clip now. Thanks for watching, and have a great day, everyone.
Are some of your MAGA friends and family trying to come back in your life? Because that's happening to me. It's happening to me. So I just received a message from one of my friends that I had to unfriend back in October. Because every time I would post something, he would write the most craziest shit on my post. And you could tell that he went down that red pill pipeline. Anyway, I haven't spoken to him since October. And all of a sudden, I get a message from him. Now, I don't know if he has Trump or regret. However, let's read the message together. I think it's kind of telling. Now, he said, "I understand why you blocked me, but it's because you were a crazed Camilla fangirl." First of all, it's not Camilla. It's Kamala. Kamala. Then he said, "Not regretting wanting Trump to succeed." What does that mean? Not regretting wanting Trump to succeed. Don't like what's happening in Palestine, but we both know what's going on with that. Let me know if I am more balanced in my politics, and maybe I'll accept you back in my circle. Now, I blocked you. I blocked you. And now you're saying that maybe you'll accept me? Oh, hell no. And this is my answer. You voted for Trump and you still act like you have no regrets, because I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to make any assumption that he regrets now. Meanwhile, this country is becoming a dictatorship. There is no room for conversation. Punto. And while my clock is playing in the background, let me know what you think about that. I haven't got a response back, but I'll make sure I let you guys know.